Right, so this is an initiative funded by Project Catalyst on community working groups in collaboration with Rare Evo. And the point of this is to get feedback from us, from the community on Catalyst. So our agenda is really just going through sort of an overview, introduction of what this is all about. We have some ground rules and expectations, intro to Catalyst, and then we'll get into, we won't probably have the break so we can save time being productive, but we'll get into the task explanation. So we will be tasked with answering a few questions that Catalyst is asking for feedback on, specifically around the parameters of Catalyst. That's what our focus will be today. And in the next sessions, we will touch upon some of the highlight questions from our other sessions so that we give a chance to the WADA community to give global feedback on everything that's being asked within Catalyst. Okay, next. So we will be doing a brief overview together as a group, maybe for 10 minutes or so. And then we'll open up breakout rooms where we'll be able to, be more interactive and collect feedback from everyone. And just a reminder, this is stuff that actually they do listen to. They have a history of hosting these kind of workshops and collecting feedback, and it does make a difference in how things are implemented. So it's great that we have so many people with us today and that your voice, just know it will be heard. So why the Catalyst working groups? This is really a way for the Catalyst community to get global feedback. What is Catalyst? It's not in any one given place. So by decentralizing these sort of events, they're able to collect a very diverse set of ideas and are able to challenge themselves to shaping a more collaborative and decentralized Catalyst. Next. All right, in terms of, how you should all approach this, we want to be respectful, of course. This should be an open space to give feedback. There can be negative feedback, of course. There can be positive feedback, but just be mindful if giving, negative feedback that we always want to keep it respectful. And also, we really value participation. So it's going to be important when we're in the breakout room. Everyone is going to need to participate. So just be mindful of being an active participator. In terms of confidentiality, we will be recording this, but we'll also we can discuss, where that recording gets published, if anyone feels uncomfortable about it, etc. Those concerns can be brought up. For constructive feedback on diversity and inclusion, the whole point of these sessions is to get everyone's opinions. So we want you to feel free to express your opinions. They'll be recorded and your feedback will be heard by Catalyst. And collaboration and accountability, I think that just speaks to what the whole point of this is all about. They're asking for our input. They want to hear from the users of Catalyst about how we want to see things. So this is really our chance to be participating in this collaboration, and also to be mindful of what the accountability of that looks like. So, we're trying to set some parameters, and we need to be able to show accountability to those parameters. Next. Okay, so the goals of this working group is for us to feel empowered and included, of course, in the decisions, giving our feedback, having a voice in the shaping of Catalyst, collaboration and analysis. So, a lot of this is kind of the same thing, right? We're collaborating in the shaping of this, which is, an important factor. And as well as our participation, there will be an opportunity for our own consensus and outputs. So the first part of today's session really is going to be about collecting feedback from everyone here. And in future sessions, what we'll have the chance to do is to consolidate that. So today we're going to really focus on getting feedback from everyone, presenting a lot of ideas. And in our next sessions, we'll be voting on what are our priorities that we want to be sharing from the WADA community's perspective on what is important and what we want to put forward. So think of today as really the idea sharing, and then we hope that you'll join us again next week, where we'll be doing some more feedback on the other parameters, and our final session will be the vote, where we bring everything together and come up with our own community consensus and outputs. And of course, the goal of this is just strengthening the community. They're hearing from us, they're hearing what's most important to us, and hopefully that is empowering us and strengthening our community. Next. That all being said, the goal is to have fun with this. Don't feel stressed in your participation. I think that's part of Catalyst, is being able to be free and express yourself, and emphasis on enjoyment. Next. All right, so as I mentioned, we're doing this overview as a whole group here, but next we'll be breaking into mini working sessions where everyone will have a chance to participate orally as well as in the Miro board. So just a reminder, I think the password and everything has been shared already in the chat. So if you are on your computer or you're in a place where you're able to access the Miro board, it is the best way to participate in this call. But of course, that's another benefit of having the smaller groups in the breakout rooms. So shortly, we'll split into 2 breakout rooms. So we'll have a smaller group space for everyone to give feedback. And we'll basically be answering a series of questions. So next slide, please. All right, so, here we have just a reminder, I guess, from the Catalyst Working Group sessions about how these are being held all over the world. So feel free to share in the chat what country you're representing today as you participate with us, and we will record that as part of our data from this workshop. So everyone can go ahead and write in the chat where you're calling from, or maybe if you're not in the place that you want to be representing, you can put the country you're representing. And feel free to put that in the chat now. All right, next slide. Okay, so for the first part of this session, as I mentioned, we're going to focus on feedback and input from everyone. So it's really about collecting information, collecting sort of the initial information, throwing out a bunch of ideas, and in future future iterations is when we'll start to refine that. So as you're participating in the breakout rooms, we're thinking about putting all ideas out there, and then we'll work afterwards to refine the ideas. So we'll be going through a series of questions, and on the screen here you can see an overview of the questions we'll be answering today. And then we'll have, so first will be idea sharing, where everyone shares their initial answers to the questions. And then in the breakout rooms, we will get into more of a discussion about why did we pick each of those answers. So I encourage everyone for the first phase of sharing just to think of your answers. And then in the second phase is when you'll have a chance for more discussion around them. So I don't want to read through all the questions here, but please read them yourselves. They will be also on the Miro board, and we will be going into them as the individual groups. Next slide. Okay, next. All right, so then this is, again, just talking about how after we do the first round of sharing, in our next session, we'll be summarizing that and voting as a group. So today, what we're going to focus on is really the first part. So we'll break out into breakout rooms. We'll have a chance to share our ideas, and then we'll all come back here together. And one representative from each of the breakout rooms will present on a high level the answers that we all came up with in our separate rooms. And then in our future sessions, what we'll be able to do is all together, we'll then vote on what we think as a group are the most important things to submit as our feedback. Next. Yeah, and that what will be involved in that is the vote altogether. And then we'll be submitting that back to Catalyst for them to actually see. And in addition to that, there will be a form that we'll share for everyone to give their own feedback on the events. And that will be submitted as well directly to Catalyst. So that will be posted in the chat towards the end of the event. All right. So, in terms of just remembering why this is valuable, we want to just emphasize that Catalyst really is listening to us. We're submitting this, and it's because we are all passionate about Catalyst. I think it's something that has brought us together, has given many of us opportunities, and we're part of this community that we want to grow and improve. And so, I hope that everyone is able to participate today and feels that they're making a positive impact. Okay, I think the rest of these are more about the voting part. So, and the participation survey. So these slides will be available for people who want them. But for now, we're about to open the breakout rooms. So everyone should have their Miro boards open. But maybe I will do a quick sharing in the main room here before we go into those breakout rooms, just to give everyone a bit of an overview. And I see Mercy is here now, so Mercy can also jump in with anything you want to add while I'm pulling up the Miro board. Welcome.
Hey, thanks everyone. Really appreciate you all being here. As Megan said, whatever we are saying is being listened to. Just to repeat that, a lot of the work that we've been able to do, both as a group and individually, might not have been possible without Catalyst. But they continue, everything hasn't been easy, but they continue to listen. And I encourage everyone to the best of your ability to make your voice heard. So we'll be having these sessions over the next, today and next week, and probably the week after as well. So please make it a point to join us. Thank you.
All right, so we'll be going into the breakout rooms shortly, and each of us will be, so we'll have two breakout rooms, and we'll be going through these questions here. Today, we're focusing on the questions 1 through 5. And as I mentioned, we'll first go through the actual questions themselves, and everyone will be able to either type in your own responses or communicate, and we'll have scribes in the room that will be helping to record all of the responses. But what we're focusing on is the Catalyst operating parameters. So the first question, for example, which parameters are able to be adjusted and why? The IOG Catalyst team will provide some help to answer this. Okay, so that's us. We'll provide the help to answer that. So everyone, can think about how you're going to answer that question. And when we get into the breakout rooms, we'll start just recording the answers to those questions. And then after we've recorded all of our answers here, we'll have a chance in the lower section to actually discuss each of those answers. So for each answer, we'll then go into justification of the answer. So this is where you get a chance to talk about why you answered it in this way and what's the value that can be achieved from this. So for people who are comfortable with Miro board, this would be a great chance for you to sort of work ahead and support. It's a lot for one person to record everything down. So if you're able to be typing directly in the Miro board, you're welcome to. Please just wait until you've been assigned to your breakout room so you know which of these boards to be looking at. So you'll see here, if I zoom out, I know Miro's is sometimes a little bit tricky. So I'll just show you a bit of an overview of what the board looks like so you can see. So what we did together, we presented this through the slides at the beginning. Step 1 and 2 will be for the facilitators to fill out later, but part of writing in the chat where you're calling from will help us to fill in, this section here where we're actually recording where people were coming from. And then here is just a map where you can see where in the world some of the in-person events were hosted. So I can hover over this for a second, and you can see where some of those in-person events were, including, I know we have Boaz on here, this little dot. Who else is here from someone from over here, I believe. So these are the 2 areas we're going to be working in today. So if you're in breakout room 1, this will be your board. It's being led by Mercy. And in breakout room 2, we'll be led by myself, and we'll be working on this board here. So only worrying about these 2 boards for today. So don't worry about anything else on here. Like I said, please try to join us the next couple of weeks because this will be a 3-part series so we can collect all the feedback that we can from you all. So for now, I'll stop sharing. And then maybe we'll just open the breakout rooms. And while those are being opened, feel free to unmute and ask any questions that you have.
Should we do one all together? Would that be good? Would that be a good use of our time? So very quickly, we all run through the first question, maybe.
Okay, that's okay with me.
Miss, you mean we'll run through the first question and we still
And
go
then
back
we
to
go
the
to the
breakout rooms?
breakout room. Would that be good? Boaz has done this before, so he might be able to help us quite a bit with the first question. Boaz, is that okay? In terms of
I think it's okay.
explaining and so on.
It will depend on the setting of this call today, so that we may not be disturbed, because I guess there was some things set up for it, such a thing. But because I don't know if questions are divided by groups.
Okay, so Boaz, we're gonna just focus on all of the questions for each of the breakout rooms. And what Mercy is suggesting is that we answer the first question all together in the main room, so that everyone can benefit from your experience having actually hosted this breakout room before. Sorry, not this breakout room, but this working group, right? You already discussed the Catalyst operating parameters.
Mm-hmm.
So her comment was really if you would feel comfortable supporting in this first session of maybe giving us some insight into question number 1.
So is this needing? Okay, go on, please.
So Megan, read out the question number 1, and if I understand, is everybody invited to share their views on that, or maybe Boaz is just giving us all the answers?
No, everyone should share their views.
Okay.
So which parameters are able to be adjusted and why? And Boaz, we don't need to put you on the spot. This is for all of us to participate right now. So if anyone has anything that they would like to suggest in terms of the Catalyst parameters, what are some parameters that can be adjusted? Feel free to call out or to type in the chat if you're more comfortable. If you're in the Miro board, I'm currently in my one of working group 2. So you can feel free to enter it in here. Okay, Boaz, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to know, because I can see here groups are required. I would like to know if we are going to be subdivided in groups here.
Yes, we are going to be divided in groups. And for right now, we're just in anticipation of everyone having maybe the same questions at the beginning. Mercy suggested that we start all together in the main room before we now break up into breakout rooms to continue.
So first,
maybe we should just start throwing some ideas out about the parameters.
So in terms of parameters, let's start thinking what makes catalyst, right? So we have, for instance, there has to be a 500 minimum ADA. You have to have that in your wallet before you can vote. So that's a parameter. The periods, like the timeline. Okay, so there is what, sometimes it says, I think 2 weeks or less in terms of submitting proposals. There is also the review period. I already talked about even the voting period. So any of these, is it negotiable or not? Let's talk about the way that funding is allocated. Is that something that should be changed in terms of, the number of yes votes sort of ranked? There has to be, in total, you have to have about 1% of the total ADA that is voted. There is also the issue even of using wallets, the number of ADA to vote. So there are so many parameters. So let's just think back on Catalyst and let's figure out, are there any parameters that needs to be reviewed?
Well, Mercy, I think you just threw out a lot.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I ask, do you have a link? Because we have got some new people who don't know anything about these catalyst parameters. A link where, when they are answering question, they can refer to where they can see these parameters for the catalyst. Thank you.
I think so. For now, unless any of us have it readily available, I don't. But we will make sure to have it next week. But those are the ones that I've quickly listed. If anybody has anything to add, that's why we are all doing this together, so that we know exactly what we are talking about. Are there any other parameters that we want to talk about?
Voting incentives.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Voting incentives.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. I like that one.
I wanted to check for anyone to be awarded a proposal fund needs to have 45 million votes. That is also a parameter, am I right?
That would be a description of a parameter, but I don't know that that is an actual parameter. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So normally, let's say 10 wallets register to vote, right? And out of these 10 wallets, each of them has 10 million ADA, right? What that means is that altogether there is 100 million ADA at stake that will be used to vote. So a parameter is that you should get at least 1% of this 100 million ADA. So that figure, the reason that I said that what you're saying is a description, but it's not an actual. It's not what happens fund by fund. Is that it's possible that in one fund that will be the case, and in another fund that will not be the case. Why? Because the wallets that register to vote and the amount of ADA in each of those wallets differ from fund to fund to fund. Does that make sense? So for your project, especially now that they only go with yes votes, your project should get the 1% minimum of that 100 million ADA. Does that make sense to everyone? Right? So you can get, you can get a lot of yes votes, but what is 1% of 1 million ADA? Samuel,
That's
you
about
are the
that'll be about 10,000 or maybe 1,000.
No, this is 100 million ADA. 10% will 1% will be 1 million ADA.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So if for instance, as I said, 10 wallets register to vote, and each of those wallets have 10 million ADA in each of them, this is very hypothetical. Then what that means is that for you to get funding, you have to get at least 1 million ADA. right? So that is something that is that a good parameter, right? Because last time Fund 11, there were a lot of projects that couldn't be funded because they didn't get that minimum amount of votes.
Okay, so Macy, if I get you right,
yes,
your project can be the best of projects. It can be very good. It can be it can satisfy all the conditions, but once, unfortunately, you don't get this required minimum amount of ADA in respect of the voting, you don't get funded, right?
Exactly. And that actually is a very big negative for areas such as Africa, LATAM, and sort of, poor regions, not poor, but emerging economy regions, because we tend to have the wallets, but there aren't a lot of ADA in it, right? So you can get 100,000 people, individuals voting for you, but because the ADA in it is not enough, you might not get that minimum 1%. Whereas maybe just one wallet can vote for one project, and because they have so much ADA in that one particular wallet, boom,
That's
they can
not
get
very fair.
funded. Yeah. So these are the things. Yeah. So these are the things that we should think about and say, hey, this is not fair, like you're saying, right?
I just found it here.
This is actually really good. I think we're kind of getting into some of the interesting talk that might be good to do in breakout rooms. So maybe now would be a good time to split up into the breakout rooms.